564 inmates from various breakouts still at large. Governors urged to invest in provinces. And Enga Top Cop takes on tribal fighting problem.
This is National EMTV News with Meriba Tulo.
A very good evening. Thank you for joining us. This is Wednesday's news. 564 inmates remain at large following jailbreaks across the country since 2016. Correctional Services Minister Roy Biama released these figures when responding to EGVitari MP Richard Masere during question time in Parliament today. Minister Biama also said there is a lack of collaboration between police and the communities in recapturing the escapees.
For example, Mr. Speaker.
As way of background, the EGVitari MP cited the list of jail breakouts the Correctional Services has encountered since 2016. The series of questions raised by the member for EGVitari include concerns on the lack of information sharing by police, correctional officers and the courts, the deteriorating CS facilities, and the security checks conducted by correctional officers during visiting hours.
Mr. Speaker, many of these prison breakouts are avoidable and preventable. So why is it being allowed to continue in our prison systems? Some of these breakouts, Mr. Speaker, can be attributed to visitors smuggling contraband brands like weapons and even mobile phones into the prison system. There's no proper security checks and no proper machines or equipment set up to conduct searches.
In a well-presented response, the CS Minister cited the total number of inmates who escaped while in custody and the total number of escapees who were recaptured and the ones still at large.
78 have been escaped, where 3 were recaptured, while 75 are still at large. The total escapees from 2016 to 2018 are at 669. Total recaptured is 123, while total detainees still at large are 546.
The issues on jail breakouts have been raised in Parliament on numerous sittings, and based on reports from correctional services, overcrowding and the amount of time it takes for courts processes to be completed are two of the reasons that lead to jail breakouts. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Day 2 of the second APEC policy partnership on women and the economy was aimed at supporting the accelerated career advancement of women in APEC member countries. Participants were given the chance to discuss opportunities to promote women and girls engaging in economic activities.
Papua New Guinea is leading talks on women and the economy forum held in Port Moresby as a lead-up to the agendas that will be presented during the APEC Leaders Summit in November. Since the establishment of PPWE in 2011, America has initiated a program aimed at empowering women to take up roles in the renewable energy sector. The program has objectives that includes empowering women to increase their skills, knowledge and self-confidence in their careers. In Papua New Guinea, more women are taking up jobs in once male-dominated fields. This includes professions like pilots, engineers and in the law enforcement. Lanyat Bai is an example of PNG women who oversees work at the agro-industry's 9 Mile farm.
First of all, it's challenging, but as a woman, it's also a rewarding career to be working in the agriculture sector.
Discussions on the different women forums will continue on Thursday and Friday, with a regional visit to the autonomous region of Bougainville on Saturday. Tekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
In addition to promotion, we should add another P to the Investment Promotion Authority. This is a comment from Northern Governor Gary Juffa during the National Speakers Investment Conference in Port Moresby. He was speaking with regard to protecting the country's jobs and businesses from foreign citizens with shady and ulterior motives.
We should protect investment, says Governor Juffa. The governor says there are investors coming into the country, investing their time, money, etc. Therefore, the government should be able to protect them. Governor Juffa also raised concerns over foreigners coming into the country to invest illegally.
Along with genuine investors, we are also seeing slipping into the country a number of insidious characters, I would call them, who are here to make as much money as they can, not respect the country and its laws, and do as they please. These need to be taken to task. If we have investors that are coming to the country and they're coming in for genuine purposes and reasons, then they need to express exactly what they're intending to do here and for how long, you know. For example, we had the SABLs, and apparently that was for agriculture, but it turned out they just wanted to chop all our trees down. In Parliament, we had a series of questions asked by both sides of the House about problems associated with this. We can't keep talking about these problems, we must do something about them. We have to guard the resources of this country, the interests of our people, as jealously and as assertively as we possibly can.
During the panel discussions, Governor Juffa said provinces should go into manufacturing and producing their own products, which can also contribute to the economy of the country.
Provinces should be allowed to be more competitive in terms of being able to compete with one another as mini economies within the economy of Papua New Guinea. We need to revisit 1995, where there were these reforms. Perhaps there were some good intentions, but I feel that those reforms basically fixed something that wasn't broken. And that's when we started to see the deterioration of districts and stations throughout the country after the 1995 provincial government reforms. We need to revisit those reforms and find out what happened and what we can do to get back on track.
Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
And during panel discussions at the first Speakers Investment Conference held at Parliament House this week, provincial governors were encouraged to improve economic growth in their provinces.
ECP Governor Alan Bird says to achieve better results, we have to think strategically. The governor says ECP has thousands of people with low levels of education and skills who can't be told to manufacture aircraft or computers but can do simple things like farming. The governor is looking at smallholder villages to produce the best products to be sold to other countries.
We're the second largest producer of vanilla in the world, one province. And not only that, if you break it down, it's only 3 districts out of the 6 districts I have in my province. Now that's an extremely important achievement, and there are key lessons you can learn from that. Number 1, government has never spent a single toya in that industry. It's driven entirely by village people and exporters. The experts in vanilla right now are not sitting at DAL, they're not sitting in the ECP provincial government, they're the actual farmers in the villages, they're the experts.
Governor Bird encouraged local landowners to utilize their land in the village and not turn to government support all the time.
The days when we are spoon-feeding our people, we need to reverse that process, and the way to do that is by empowering our people. Now, this might not win elections. This is not about winning elections. This is about doing what needs to be done and kind of locking yourself in and saying, okay, instead of doing this 1 year and next year we try and do something else, we're going to do this consistently. On the flip side, we're also trying to create a space for large-scale enterprise.
Michelle Stephen, National EMTV News.
Morobe Provincial Police Commander Alex Drassal confirmed the rape of 2 nurse trainees in the Tewai CSE district on Monday. The trainees were doing their practical with a team of health workers conducting polio awareness and treatment in the Wasu LLG when they were attacked and raped by a group of between 5 and 10 men. This happened whilst they were walking to a different location. BBC Drassal said the young men were believed to be drunk. He said officers have already been sent to Wasa to investigate the incident and will ensure the perpetrators are apprehended, charged and prosecuted. Meanwhile, the two women were brought back to Lae yesterday and are being treated. You're watching National EMTV News. Still ahead, more of the day's other stories. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the news. The Constitutional and Law Reform Commission signed an MOU with the University of Papua New Guinea today. The MOU is for the university to assist the CLRC with the current review of the country's electoral laws. The MOU will allow UPNG to conduct seminars on some of the terms of reference or topics on the review of the organic law on national and local level government elections.
In June this year, the government launched the Organic Law Review Program. Since then, the CLRC has been going around the country to get the views from the public on the provisions of the election law. CLRC, realizing that it could not do this task alone, has decided to create partnerships with public institutions so that it can reach and get the opinions of every citizen. The MOU signed today with UPNG is part of that move. CLRC Secretary Dr. Eric Kwa explained the election law provisions that are being reviewed.
Relating to the electoral system itself, particularly the common roll, the voting system. We're looking at the polling periods. How long should people campaign? How long should we take to cast our votes? When should we make declarations? We're also looking at the issue of nomination fees, looking at the eligibility of candidates, looking at special interest groups, particularly women and other groups.
Earlier this year, the CLRC was given the mandate by the government to review the election law following the 2017 general elections. There was a lot of controversy during the 2017 elections, and as a result, the government decided to address those issues through the law, which has resulted with the current review of the election law. Dr. Kwa said institutions such as UPNG had the experts to provide the platform for public seminars.
The universities and with NRI, they have the experts. They have the student numbers. They also have the staff numbers. They're also accessible to the public. My people are locked up in a place somewhere where it's very unfamiliar with a lot of our people, and so people will not come easily to us. And so we think that these public institutions that we go to, they will help us.
The University of Goroka, Divine Word University, and the University of Technology have agreed to sign a MOU for the same purpose. Charlene Airy, National EMTV News.
Rarely do you find a school within a hospital facility, but in Simbu Province, the Sir Joseph Namri Hospital is providing learning opportunities for patients and children as with special needs and children of its staff. So far, the school has produced students who have gone on to technical college institutions within Simbu Province.
A walk to the back of St. Joseph Namri Hospital, we could hear the echo of a busy learning environment. But this is no ordinary school. The facility was established to serve patients who are admitted for longer durations.
And it is not like other schools in Papua New Guinea and Simbu. We have students with various disabilities. Enrolled here, we have them in the classroom, as we can see now, and we have the students up in the hospital ward. And students up in the hospital ward are from Simbu and Papua New Guinea as well.
The school was established in 2002 and is in its 16 years of operation. Children attend classes from elementary up to grade 8 and middle high school. Most teachers are trained under the Special Education Skills and Model, who then prepare specific lessons for particular students according to their imperatives.
They cannot go to mainstream schools because teachers in mainstream schools, they don't prepare lessons to help these kids. So they sort of ignore them and they stay out in the village. So we help them. So far many of them passed out from here, went to mainstream schools like Gon and Pronoko, and then from there they did well, so they went to our secondary schools.
The hospital school is also receiving TFF funding and is receiving support from government, churches and other stakeholders to keep its operation going.
National Department of Education, the PNG government, they give us TFF. And then Simple Council Education, Catholic Education, all them with us. But our main sponsors are the founder of the school, Dr. and Father Joski, and the hospital management.
While learning is the focus for students, just next door is the kitchen room where food is prepared for the rest of the school. On a provincial level, the Simbu Education Division is challenged to implement the new changes in the curriculum model. But the head of the division is confident Simbu schools will implement the new policy announced by the national government.
Now we are introduced with the standard-based education, so when the government is introducing changes, we are also trying our very best to flow with the changes, implement the changes in the classrooms. And these are challenges, but we are facing it, and we are trying to make the policies work in the province.
Jack Lapava Jr., National EMTV News.
Kapanut Health Center in the Namatanai district of New Ireland province will extend and improve the level of health service it currently provides to communities. A check of 15,000 kina was recently presented to support its operations. The health facility serves an estimate 7,000 people in 6 wards on the west coast of Namatanai. Local MP Walter Schnobelt expressed the need to support such services, but funding has been slow at the national level. The occasion also coincided with the unveiling of a plaque at Kabanut Elementary, which was supported earlier this year by the Namatanai district. Enga Provincial Police Commander Joseph Tondop says his focus is to address and minimize tribal fighting in the province. Tondop says he will try as much as possible to be present in all the fighting areas in order to maintain peace and law and order in communities. This is his first move after taking up the post 2 months ago.
Enga PPC Joseph Tondop says tribal fighting is a major law and order issue in the resource-rich provinces of Enga, Hela and Southern Highlands. Even though major mining activities are taking place in these provinces, tribal fighting is a setback for these provinces to progress.
But one plus something where all of you are down, all of you, stop him. Enga go to next level and one plus something and tribal fighters.
Tondop has recently intervened at 2 separate tribal fights in Layagam and Kandep respectively and brought back normalcy to what could have been a disaster at the cost of innocent lives. In a retaliation killing between the Kapus and Komai tribes in Kandep, 5 people were murdered and several others injured from gunshot and bush knife wounds. At another fight between the Lamandon and Wapo clans in Layagam district, 5 people were also killed, homes razed and food gardens destroyed.
This is heavy, now you please stop talking. It will legally something, now you talking. Maybe absence of police along here or district.
PPC Tondop has given the warring group 7 days to stop the fight or the law will take its own course. Vasinata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
The New Ireland provincial government will be effecting the Vagrancy Act of 2012. Governor Sir Julius Chan says the act will give powers to remove those involved in serious crimes and persistent lawbreakers, including abuse of New Ireland's customs and traditions. Governor Chan announced this while receiving a petition from Lavangai Islanders after 2 men were stabbed by 3 Sipik settlers in Kavieng over alleged abuse. Meanwhile, New Ireland PPC Gideon Ikumo has confirmed that the 3 suspects are in police custody, while the victims are also in hospital receiving treatment.
That's all by administrative in place. Now you may put him all this to a law, and New Ireland will become truly beautiful. All people can drink about on public place, all can speak about. Now, all you respect one another. That's for something it come up, long as today, good for something.
This is Wednesday's news. We go for a break now. When we come back, we take a look at stories making headlines overseas. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now into the US first. The White House is under President Trump is like crazy town and stuck in a perpetual nervous breakdown. These are just two of the claims made in a new book by distinguished American journalist Bob Woodward. The book also claims a senior figure in the Trump administration called the president an idiot and unhitched.
The White House looked as stately and elegant as ever. But according to the new book, this mansion is home to a presidency in chaos, a West Wing suffering a nervous breakdown, an administrative coup d'etat. It details how senior aides tried to prevent Donald Trump from wielding his presidential pen, hiding official documents from his desk to stop him withdrawing America from the NAFTA free trade agreement, and ignoring his suggestion to assassinate the Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad. It quotes the White House Chief of Staff John Kelly describing the president as unhinged. He's an idiot. It's pointless to try to convince him of anything. He's gone off the rails. We're in crazy town. What gives the book so much credence is the authority of its author, Bob Woodward, whose work alongside Carl Bernstein during Watergate did so much to bring down Richard Nixon. Woodward is a Washington institution.
Hello, Bob.
President Trump, how are you?
How are you? How you doing? Okay?
Real well. I'm turning on my tape recorder with your permission.
Bob Woodward finally managed to speak to the president, but only after the book was finished.
You know, it's a tough look at the world and your administration and you.
Right. Well, I assume that means it's going to be a negative book, but you know, I'm sort of 50% used to that. That's all right. Some are good and some are bad. Sounds like this is going to be a bad one.
It's certainly a bad one for the embattled Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who Mr. Trump apparently described as mentally retarded and a dumb Southerner. The White House claims the book is nothing more than fabricated stories, many by former disgruntled employees.
The largest typhoon to hit Japan in a quarter of a century has left a widespread trail of damage and death. At least 9 people were killed and more than 150 injured, and the monster storm struck and swept right across the nation.
The city of Osaka copped the worst of it. Winds reaching more than 200 kilometres an hour lashed the coastline. There'd been plenty of warning the Category 5 typhoon was on its way, but many were still caught out. Here, a lucky escape from the torrent of water below. The big winds and rain coming in the middle of the day. This time-lapse footage shows Kansai International Airport inundated with water. Runways and aprons becoming lakes within an hour. The flooding causing it to be shut down. Car parks were turned into scrapyards as the winds ravaged exposed areas. The airport becoming further isolated when this tanker smashed into the bridge linking it to the city. Typhoons are common this time of year in Japan, but not this magnitude, the worst in 25 years. A Kiwi couple living in Osaka were in their high-rise apartment when the typhoon hit.
This time the wind was really something else. We thought the windows were going to blow in, basically just trees ripping apart. Everything around our apartment building was flying around.
Another Kiwi international rugby player, Luke Thompson, went out for a morning workout.
It was fine when I went down, but an hour and a half or so later I come out and the rain was coming sideways, and she was biking home was a bit tough. She nearly got blown off the old bike a bit.
Power was cut off for most of the day, but fires were sparked around the city. In Kobe, this blaze broke out at a storage site where dozens of cars were waiting to be shipped overseas. According to officials, Jebi's lethal lashing has forced thousands of residents into emergency shelters. Weather extremes hitting Japan hard this year, with the country recording its hottest day ever, and earlier, severe flooding killed more than 200 people.
Power divers in the Deep South are celebrating after the Court of Appeal ruled shark cage diving is now illegal in New Zealand. It effectively brings to an end the long-running battle over whether cage diving on Stewart Island makes swimming there safe.
Thousands of people each year pay big bucks to see these apex predators in their natural environment. Burley and bait dangled tantalisingly close, but not any longer. The Court of Appeal has ruled shark cage diving as an offence under the Wildlife Act. It's pursuing or disturbing great whites and is therefore the same as hunting or killing.
I feel really pleased that it's happened. I wish it had happened 5 years ago.
Power divers claim the practice has made the great whites associate boats and humans with food.
I'm concerned about my immediate family in the water, on the water. I'm concerned about the whole Stewart Island community, particularly the power divers.
The judgment means the Department of Conservation has no power to authorise shark cage diving, effectively putting 2 companies out of business, those companies not talking today. But tourism bosses say shark cage diving is a popular attraction on many people's bucket lists.
Shark cage diving has existed for decades around the world and when done properly is perfectly safe. So we don't want to see a complete ban on this activity just because a 65-year-old piece of legislation didn't ever contemplate that such a thing would exist.
DOC says it's considering the Court of Appeal's decision and will take time to understand what it means. But for now, these power hunters can continue their work.
It's a lot safer to get in the water again now, knowing that they're not going to be approaching boats for feeds and scaring us and scaring the divers out of the water.
Feeling safer knowing these predators aren't being encouraged to play up for the cameras.
A war against rats in a Christchurch suburb is enjoying significant success. The people of Sumner were in despair a year ago, overrun by rats which damaged homes and killed native bird life. A warning, this story contains images of dead animals.
Out on his daily patrol.
Tail. Good sign.
Only a dedicated rat trapper would be happy with a tail this long.
This is a healthy one. It's a rattus, if you want its botanical name.
The Sumner resident has killed 150 rats since the start of the year.
They're voracious breeders and voracious eaters, so the more of these you get rid of, the better.
The community group Predator Free Sumner is determined to bring native birds back to the hills, eradicating over 500 pests and counting.
They're killers. Possums, rats, stoats. Sadly, they're killers. They're introduced killers.
Empty red zone land and homes left derelict long after the earthquakes contribute to the rat problem.
The derelict houses would have just provided a lovely little haven.
Hillside homes have been damaged in the rodents' relentless search for warmth and food. Autumn after autumn.
Was that rat poo just fell out?
Yeah, rat poo just fell out.
Paul Harrow has had his wiring gnawed clean through.
They get in there, and that's all the rat poo that's fallen out. They chew those wires off. In fact, that one's been chewed.
You must hate them.
I do. They're filthy little fat fellows, and there's just so many of them.
He's trapped more than 40 rats this year.
So I'm just checking to see how many kills are on that trap, and it comes up with 22.
After a year of trapping around Sumner, an empty trap is seen as success. So you feel as if you're winning?
I like to think I'm winning.
The goal, 4,000 traps in the Port Hills, lots more native birds, and not a single rat.
You're watching National EMTV News. We take a look at Trukai Sports up next after these messages. Don't go away.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. We begin with football, and the PNG youth football team left for the Solomon Islands for the OFC men's under-16 playoff in their quest to qualify for next year's FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Peru. The PNG side will face the Solomon Islands in the opening round of their 3 pool matches.
A young bunch buoyed by their forerunners and inspired to don the national colours, the youth side left the country today for Solomon Islands. The PNG Under-16 side is coached by Anthony Pakakota, Port Moresby Premier League and PS Roots coach. Pakakota is one of the OFC certified coaches in the country. The team played an impressive training match against National Soccer League champions Toti City FC late last week over in Lae. Now, as part of their lead-up matches, PNG is likely to face Fiji national team tomorrow, pending the availability of the fields. The PNG community in Honiara, Solomon Islands is encouraged to turn out in numbers and get behind the national team. Current Solomon Islands League import and PNG senior men's captain Michael Foster will be part of the PNG management team assisting the youth side during their campaign. PNG will face Vanuatu on Wednesday and New Zealand on the weekend, hoping for a spot in the semi-finals. The competition will be played in a round-robin format with the top 2 teams in the competition to represent the Oceania region in the 2019 FIFA Men's Under-17 World Cup in Peru. Shane Saroya, National EMTV Sports.
In a news conference yesterday, Oceania Women's Rugby Director Kathy Wong announced that Fiji was pleased to host the Oceania Sevens 3 years in a row after a contract with Oceania Rugby. Fiji's Minister for Youth and Sport, Lysenia Tuitubo, says Fiji is looking forward to welcoming all participating countries in both the men's and women's divisions.
The home of rugby, Fiji will again host this year's Oceania Rugby Sevens come November this year. Oceania Rugby Women's Director Katie Wong says the Oceania Rugby Sevens competition is an impressive event for women's and men's teams competing to be the best in the Pacific.
Following last year's successful delivery of the Oceania Rugby Sevens Championship, Oceania Rugby, through a 3-year partnership with the Fijian government, is excited yet again to bring what we term our Blue Ribbon event to Suva. The Oceania Rugby Sevens Championship is an impressive competition of women and men's team competing to be the best in the Pacific. And that means the best on the global stage based on the international performance of our region's men's and women's team.
Fiji's Minister for Youth and Sports, Lysenia Tuitubo, says Fiji's main aim is to host world-class events through sports tourism.
The intention of the Fiji government has been very clear. We have a vision of making Fiji a sought-after destination in the Asia-Pacific region when it comes to hosting international sporting events. So we're looking forward yet again for the 8 women teams that will compete this year, and I congratulate Fiji Rugby for the commitment in promoting an equal playing field. As we have heard from the Director of Women, that girls and women are the same as men in rugby, and Oceania Rugby is promoting that.
CEO of Fiji Rugby Union John O'Connor says while Fiji claims to hold the spirit of rugby, the country is looking forward to some great action of hard rugby, especially from the 2018 World Cup champions New Zealand.
As you know, we always believe that Fiji is the spiritual home of sevens, and we look forward to welcoming the Oceania Rugby teams, and this includes Australia and New Zealand, and likewise Samoa, who are top sevens in the world. Welcome them to the spiritual home of sevens to enjoy the Fijian hospitality and also to at the same time experience some hard sevens rugby.
He says not only is the country preparing to host the Oceania Rugby competition, but also to build capacity.
I think in terms of hosting the tournament, we've used the tournament to build capacity. As we look forward to the possibility of hosting HSBC 7 Series, we are using the Oceania Sevens as a pathway to hosting further international tournaments should we be successful.
The competition will see 21 teams, 13 men's and 8 women's teams compete for the 2018 Oceania title. The event will take place from the 9th to the 10th of November 2018 in Suva, Fiji. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Don't go anywhere, we'll have more of Trukai Sports when we come back.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To Rugby League now, the announcement of October's historic clash between Tonga and the Kangaroos is just the start of a bigger plan to rejuvenate the international game. Next year, Tonga will also play the Kiwis, who have turned their focus away from Denver.
Tonga's Red Army has been given the green light to celebrate once again.
Unbelievable scenes.
The Dream World Cup final they were denied will now take place at Mount Smart. Kangaroos players each taking a $15,000 pay cut to match Tonga's returning World Cup stars.
You don't really worry about what you get paid, you just want to get out there and represent your country with pride.
Yeah, it just shows how passionate they are about the game and how passionate they are about growing the game.
Under new management, the Kiwis finally realised the opportunity, abandoning their failed Denver experiment to play a 2019 rematch against Tonga, which will be moved to a bigger venue if this year's fixtures sell out. And One News can reveal that NRL CEO Todd Greenberg has already contacted Eden Park about potentially hosting the Kiwis and Tonga next year, as well as other tests in future.
Obviously, Eden Park's capacity of 48,000 provides 20,000 extra Aucklanders the opportunity to experience league at New Zealand's National Stadium.
Eden Park, is that where we might see Tonga?
We might have to see if we can gravitate them to a bigger stage, so fingers crossed.
There are plans to bring the annual Pacific double-header here and add the Kiwis to the tournament.
To grow the sport, we have to make sure those emerging nations have more opportunities to play the Tier 1 nations. So it's the start of what I think will be a much bigger calendar.
Certainly, I think in the coming months there'll be some other exciting announcements.
But until then, they're relying on a repeat of scenes like these to prove the concept works.
I watch a lot of footy from Origins and Grand Finals, but that was the best rugby league experience I had last year in 2017. It was nothing short of phenomenal.
Which is why it was worth fighting for in 2018.
It's going down as the match of the tournament so far. Defending champion Rafael Nadal taken on a 5-hour roller coaster ride by his Austrian opponent Dominic Thiem for a place in the US Open semi-finals.
It took Dominic Thiem just 24 minutes to leave Arthur Ashe Stadium stunned.
Crowd just shocked, a huge murmur.
The Austrian 9th seed taking the first set against three-time champion Rafael Nadal, 6-love.
Dominic Thiem has Rafa on the ropes. Can he come back?
The answer? Yes. Like so many times before, it seemed to spark Nadal into life.
Too good.
He won the second and third sets in tight fashion, with both players running each other ragged deep into the night in New York. Nadal rattling off 4 straight games in the third, coming from a breakdown to go 2-1 up.
The team had the lead, but Rafa just ripped that third set away from him.
And it was a similar battle in the fourth set, but this time it was Thiem who got the upper hand.
Thiem will not yield. Outplays Nadal in a tense tiebreak.
Sending the match into a decider. The crowd needing whatever fuel they could just to stay awake. That didn't seem a problem on court though. Thiem coming from love 40 down deep in the fifth set. After 4.5 hours, the pair producing the point of the tournament. They still couldn't be separated though, and in what seemed fitting for this marathon, a tiebreaker was needed to decide the match. That left everyone gripped as well, but in the end, Nadal prevailed, advancing to his 7th US Open semi-final.
A brutal, bruising, beautiful battle. And at 2:03 a.m., the champion finally subdues the challenger.
Nadal reigns again, a monumental recovery needed before a date with Juan Martín del Potro.
To cricket now, and at over 2 meters tall Canterbury bowler Kylie Jameson often uses his height to his advantage. But after an extensive winter, he's ready to unleash another weapon from his armory.
With an extra spring in his step, Kyle Jamison's ready to let rip into the new summer.
Probably sort of someone that wants to do everything at full tilt, so I've sort of got to be reminded to sort of slow down and chill out a wee bit.
The 6'8", 23-year-old's been injury-free over a full winter for the first time in 4 years. The extra training resulting in extra pace, with his speed hitting the 140s.
Injury-free has been really good for me. I'm feeling pretty good going into this season.
With newly appointed Black Caps coach Gary Stead vacating his Canterbury coaching chair, replacement Brendan Donkers has been in awe of Jamison's progress.
A little bit more desire there from Kyle to want to bowl fast as well. So that internal motivation to bowl quick is there.
Which has been getting under the skin of his teammates, who are probably relieved he's touring with New Zealand A next month.
He has got quicker. He's been working on a few things to try and get himself a few extra Ks where it counts.
And it's not just his current teammates taking notice.
He's got something different to everyone else in first class cricket. Obviously his height. There's not many of those guys going around in the world, so he's got an added advantage there.
I guess it's also learning in those different conditions and different stages of a game how you can still be effective, how you can take wickets.
And should he be effective in the humid conditions of Dubai, then his old coach Gary Stead shouldn't have trouble finding his number if he's needed for higher honours.
To cycling, and Kiwi cyclist Patrick Bevan has shot ahead of some of the world's best to take the lead on the Tour of Britain. The 27-year-old was prepared for the stage this morning, but is second place enough to secure him the Tour leader's green jersey in Bristol.
Our new race leader.
He's the Kiwi cyclist on track to securing the biggest win of his career.
From New Zealand, Patrick Bevan.
Patrick Bevan grabbing the Tour of Britain's green jersey after a tight 128k third stage through Bristol. Starting the day in third and 8 seconds off the overall lead, the 27-year-old was nestled in the chasing group.
BMC, though, they're trying to set this one up for Paddy Bevan.
And they did, catching the leaders with 8k's to go.
Paddy Bevan is poised and ready.
Team BMC working Bevan to the front, ready to make his attack. But the Kiwi was boxed in during the final sprint. Victory anyone's for the taking.
Alaphilippe takes it from Paddy Bevan.
Everyone was a little bit legless, so it all kind of happened in slow-mo, and unfortunately, didn't quite have the legs to get over Julian.
The tight finish reflective of the overall standings. Bevan only holding the lead thanks to countback, but he's still picked as a favourite for a top finish, just like compatriot George Bennett at the Vuelta a España. Bennett holding 10th, clawing back a second after the 10th stage.
He's winning again.
The pair setting up potential Kiwi history at the Road World Championships at the end of this month, aiming to be the first New Zealand men to finish inside the top 10 in over a decade.
Some Americans are burning their shoes while others are voicing their support of Nike's decision to use former AFL player Colin Kaepernick's new advertising campaign. Colin sparked controversy by kneeling during the national anthem to protest racial injustice and is a polarizing choice to fund the ads.
Colin Kaepernick is back in action, but this time off the field. The controversial quarterback now the face of Nike's 30th anniversary Just Do It campaign with these words, believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. In 2016, Kaepernick ignited a firestorm when he started kneeling during the national anthem to protest racial injustice.
You're going to have that backlash for trying to fight for people.
Nike's move today drawing swift backlash, some taking to social media to burn their gear in protest. But other Nike athletes like LeBron James and Serena Williams praising the decision. Serena tweeting, especially proud to be a part of the Nike family today, #JustDoIt. Tom Brady liking the ad on Instagram too. Nike's stock today taking a hit, dropping over 3%.
The executives at Nike decided that this was a risk worth taking. And that even if there are people who say, hey, I'm not going to ever buy another Nike product.
One fierce critic of anthem protests, the president today, telling the Daily Caller that Nike's decision sent a terrible message, but added that the freedom to make this decision is what this country is all about.
And that's it for Trukai Sports this evening. We go for a break. When we come back, the weather details for the next 24 hours.
Trukai Sports.
Trukai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. In the southern region, fine in Alotau, fine becoming cloudy for Popondetta, mostly fine for Daru, showers in Port Moresby and Kerama. To the Momasa region, fine becoming cloudy in Lae, Wau and Madang, the same as well for Wewak and Vanimo. To the New Guinea Islands region, fine becoming cloudy later on for Lorengau, Kavieng, Kokopo, Rabaul, Kimbe and Buka. And in the Highlands region, rain and drizzles expected in Mount Hagen, fine becoming cloudy for Goroka and Kundiawa, some showers for Mendi and Wabeg. to a look at the forecast for small ships, but first there is a renewal of a strong wind warning current for all coastal waters. Strong southeasterly winds of 25 to 34 knots are expected to continue for the next 24 hours, causing rough seas. All small craft and boats are advised to take the necessary precautions before going out to sea. To the forecast for small ships for the next 24 hours, waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island to Kerma, Yule Island, Hood Point to Samurai Island, and with waters of western Milne Bay Islands and waters of Samurai Island to Cape Vogel to Finschhafen, seas 1 to 1.5 meters. Waters of eastern Milne Bay Islands, seas 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Waters of Finschhafen through VTS and Dampier Strait to CRC Island to Long Island, and with waters of West New Britain, seas 1 to 2 meters. And waters of Long Island to Medang, Bogea, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo to the northern PNG Indonesian border, and waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and waters of New Island to East New Britain and Bougainville, seas 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea sees moderate with southeasterly winds at 15 to 20 knots. Solomon Sea sees slight to rather rough with southeasterly winds at 10 to 25 knots. Bismarck Sea sees slight to moderate with southeast to southerly winds at 10 to 20 knots. And the Pacific Ocean sees slight with southeast to southwesterly winds at 10 to 15 knots.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And to end the news, a recap of our top stories this evening. Over 500 escapees still at large across the country. Governors urged to invest in provinces, and Enga PPC takes tribal fighting head on. And that's the news, sport and weather for today, Wednesday, the 5th of September 2018. Tune in at 8 p.m. this evening as My Province, My Country, 43 years on, takes us to Jiwaka Province. We hope you enjoy that episode. Right now, on behalf of the entire MTV News team, pleasant viewing and good night.